Rightio, one thing that is, I don't know, parental guarantees. I believe if there's willing and able parents with equity, it's actually such a low-risk strategy. Have there been any changes or big changes in the lending landscape with parental guarantees?
I would say there's a lot of parental guarantees happening.
But the fundamentals haven't changed.
They haven't changed. I mean, if you look over
like
the last...
I tried to give my friend a guarantee to buy their first home. No bank would do it because I'm not. So I'm talking about, has there been any landmark changes?
Not landmark changes. It's called family equity, so you should be related to be able to do it.
They need to change that because why not help first homeowners? Like, I've got equity. Why can't I help a fellow person or Aussie or whatever that's a friend who I've known for a million years? Why couldn't they use my equity?
It has to be family because there is a risk to the person putting up the guarantee. And I guess for parents or for siblings, they can see that, or even aunts or uncles, they can see that benefit. It's helping your family. But I guess they've got to show the benefit for you if you're just doing it for a friend.
Well, the benefit for me is no benefit. I just want to help friends.
That is very kind. But they are happening a lot more. And I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute and talk about, can I just get on my soapbox and say something I think is going to be a potential problem. So a lot of people, and we're doing, I would say, dozens of these a week, which is the Australian government 5% guarantee scheme, which is where people have the 5% deposit and the government guarantees the 15%. So a lot of people are not using a parental guarantee that would have used one because the government's there saying, I'll guarantee you. And that's great.
Is there a but coming?
There is a but coming. The but coming is there's two things they're doing that I think I'm going to earmark some problems that I'm going to see in the next year or two, which is if you're a first home buyer buying your first home, there's two things that you do to mitigate risk. One of them is you leave out a really good buffer. So a lot of people are leaving out good buffers to say, I'm going to leave my emergency fund in an account so if anything happens, I've still got that money there. Well, with those loans, and they're still great loans, you've just got to realise how to navigate them, there's only a certain amount of funds you can leave out. And that changes between banks. But let's say it's $10,000 for one particular lender. Well, that's all you can leave out. So if something goes wrong and one of you were to lose a job or something like that, you may not have a big enough emergency fund to be able to get through the storm. Now, what happens when people do get to that position? And, the last 20 years, it's been really common. One of you lose your job, things get a little hard mortgage-wise. What do? You move home with mum and dad and you rent the house out to try to get through. Well, with the 5% guarantee scheme, you cannot rent that property out at any point that the guarantee is in place. So if you did get into trouble and needed to...
I mean, in practice, people probably would.
You can't. In the climate that it is today, everything is known. If somebody rents that property out, let me tell you...
You reckon it's mapped to like the ATO or something?
It's everything. Everything they know. So I've had a client that legitimately rented a room out and they got to please explain.
But I bet many people do and they shouldn't. But there's probably like a ATO audit trail. You just wouldn't do it, would you?
You wouldn't do it. And I think in the current climate, it would be very easy to tell if that property was rented out. So I think you really need to release that guarantee of the government before you rent the property out. So those are the two things that could be a problem. And when it gets explained to people, some people are still going, I'm going to use a parental guarantee rather than that because actually I might want to rent that property out. Or a lot of people are buying their first property as an investment. And I guess that's obviously not...
Well, you couldn't use the government.
You can't use the government and then it's a parental guarantee. So there is a lot of parental guarantees happening.
So is the hierarchy in terms of assistance, if the parents are willing, able and go there first before the government deposit scheme?
I think the government deposit scheme suits people who are really comfortable with their repayments, are really comfortable with the fact they're going to be living in that property long term. But yeah, I definitely still explore both options.
Yeah, and I will disclose, just for complete transparency, at the time of this recording, I am one of the spokespeople for this government scheme.
Yes.
So, and I'm a big believer in it, and I wouldn't have agreed to do it if I didn't think it was good. But I think more people are getting into homes sooner. But I think when you are going to your lender to buy a first home or investment property, Well, a couple of things. If you are going to buy an investment property as your first home, well, the government schemes aren't on the table anyway.
That's right.
But for the maximum flexibility, I'm thinking if a parental guarantee is available, maybe that's the first port of call.
I think if you were buying and the intent was to ever rent it out, if you thought, well, I'm going to rent that out in 2 years' time, I would still be looking at other options.
Yeah.
And I'd also try to keep as much funds out as you are allowed to, because you still want to have an emergency fund. And some lenders will allow you to leave out more than others.
Yeah. Cool. Any other soapboxiness?
That's on my whole soapbox about the guarantee.
So basically, when it comes to parental guarantee, if you just dab on the right, what type of overarching things and risks and exit pathways do we need to look at the start, knowing that to release the parental guarantee, two things probably have to happen. The property increases in value, or you pay down the release.
That's right.
Or both.
That's right.
But both of them mean LVR overall has to be reduced.
That is right. So we talked about equity earlier. So that equity position, you might borrow at 100% using a parental guarantee. The property might go up 10% in value and you may pay 10% off of the loan, and then your LVR is 80%, and that's when you get the parents released or the government release. So it works the same. So releasing the government from your guarantee when they do that is exactly the same as releasing your parents. You need to have sufficient equity to do it. So when we talk about a parental guarantee, generally the property goes up in value faster than you can pay it down. And if I look, we've had a really good market. So the last, I would say, 7 years, those guarantees are getting released very quickly because the property market has really steadily moved up. So there's parental guarantees we've done last year that are already released.
But you can't go in with the intention.
You cannot, and that's the thing. I really am clear that people say, oh, I did one for my son and it was released in 12 months and we're doing another one. I would still prepare the parents that this could be a much longer term thing because we don't know that property prices are going to move in the same trajectory as they have. So people have to be prepared for a longer term strategy, like with the government one. So people are going into that government guarantee scheme thinking, oh, I'll get the government off in a year. Well, you don't know that. It could be 5 years and they're still attached. So just make sure that you're thinking about that before you go in.
And I will say, as much as I'm a fan and I think it is a low risk strategy for the parental guarantee, it could be available and the parents could be willing, but it might not be a fit. And you might go, what do you mean by that, Glen? Well, when I bought my first property, my parents were willing and able to use a parental guarantee. But I took the view that at the time I was busy building business, I knew that they were wanting to sell and move. And while you can transfer a guarantee by moving properties, I took the view that this is going to be so much easier and quicker for me over the next couple of years to just pay, I think I paid $14,000 of LMI for my first home, even though I could have not paid that and got a parental guarantee. Because for me, I just didn't have the emotional, mental capacity to take mum and dad on a journey, explain to them and sign this, sign that. Okay, then when you sell the house, because I knew that they were wanting to sell and move within the next couple of years, I'm like, it's just going to be easier for me just to pay the $15,000. It's capitalized onto the loan and get on with my life.
Yeah, but I think
and people will go, you're an idiot, Glen. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the first time I've been called an idiot, but we'll compare our net worth and we'll see who made the wrong decision. And it probably wasn't the wrong decision because I've done quite well in life by doing that. So
I bought my first investment property, not my first home, but my first investment property using a parental guarantee. It was only there for a short term. I'm pretty passionate about them. I think they're a great tool, but they're not for everyone. And not everyone has that, ability. A lot of parents don't own property, and a lot of parents who do aren't willing to do something like a guarantee. But I have this conversation at least once a week. At least once a week, this is a conversation that happens. Somebody says to one of the team that they're going to go on a savings plan for 18 months, 2 years, or whatever it is. The parental guarantee isn't available. And when asked why the parental guarantee isn't available, they said, just not something that I want to ask. And then a conversation with those parents happen. and those parents want to do the guarantee. It happens all the time. When they understand how it works, they want to do it. Now, it's not there for everyone. It's certainly not for people who don't have great habits and don't have great savings and all of those sorts of things. I wouldn't be even talking to a parent that had somebody who I guess had a lot of personal debt and things like that. But I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about the people who are, I've got all my personal debt, I've got my emergency fund, I'm about to start embarking on this 2-year journey to save a deposit. Some parents don't know that they can take that 2-year pain away.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I do know that there could be parents that own their house outright. And because you can do a parental guarantee if there is still a mortgage, provided, rewind, usable equity.
Yeah.
There are still parents, and I know because I was trying to help someone last year, I knew the situation intimately. I knew that the parents' house had lots and lots of equity. I knew that the parents were probably going to leave that house feet first in a box, not going away. I knew that the child would pay, would do all that, but there was just something in the parents, even once they understood everything, they didn't want to take that risk, even though they fully understand. And that just goes back to risk profile. And some people are just so conservative. We had, I wanted to do a What Would Glen Do on the Retire Right podcast, and where someone interviewed them, I said, I can do it audio only. I can change your name to Barbara, not your real name. All good. She wrote back, I don't want to do this in case the ATO ping me, Centrelink attract, and I was like, I don't live on any type of planet where if you come onto a podcast with a different name and talk first name only your situation, that the ATO and Centrelink are tracking you down. I don't live on that planet. This woman did. So there are situations where there might be a risk profile from parents, even though it's a limited guarantee, that they will not do this in a million years. And I'll just throw to you in finishing on the PG section, talk to us about limited and full guarantee. Yeah, so you'd only ever do a limited guarantee, and most banks only do limited guarantees now. It's very different to how it was, but it's a limited amount. So let's say it's you're buying for $500,000 and you've got no deposit. It might be 20% of a guarantee, and that's the limited amount that the parents are guaranteeing. But not saying it's for everyone. I'm just saying if you want to go on that journey of what options are available to you, tick that off before you move on. Is it available, yes or no? If it's not, great, move on to the next strategy. Yeah. And we had this discussion when we finished writing the manuscript for the Quick Start Guide to Your First Property, and we spent a bit of time on parental guarantees. And this is where it's the art versus science of the broker, and it's the risk profile of the person. It's all that. I'm like, let's draw a diagram of how parental guarantees work. I drew it. You're like, no, don't do it that way because in practice it works this way. I'm talking about setting up a separate split that just represents the parental guarantee portion. Yeah. So if people just want to put that portion secured against the parent's home into a separate mortgage split, they can do that. Yeah. Or you can throw it in there's so many options. And I guess I say that to say that part of the discussions with the parents would be, hey, if it makes you more comfortable, we set up a split for the kids that is just your equity, and their reason for living is to pay that down to zero as soon as possible. Yeah. I don't know, there's just so many options. So if anyone's parents are wanting to know about that, I'm happy to have a chat. Yeah. And you'll have to read the book to see what diagram we ended up using, because I actually don't remember. It's not as simplistic as you would have loved, but it is accurate. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.